What's up, guys? Comrade64 back with another video, and for today's video, I'm going to be talking about a certain animated series based on everybody's favorite popular Marvel superhero. Everybody's favorite Marvel character, who is basically Marvel's probably official mascot. I think you guys all know what I'm talking about. The one and only Spider-Man. Yep. Everybody's favorite friendly neighborhood wall crawler. Now, today I'm going to be talking about the 1994 animated series. Why I think it is by far the best Marvel animated series ever of all time. My personal opinion. Now, now Spider-Man, we all love Spider-Man. He's by far a popular character. For many reasons, he's relatable to many people, kids, particularly teenagers, because Spider-Man started off as a teenager, and then becoming a superhero, because we rarely seem to get superheroes as teenagers. I mean, maybe some, but the majority of them are all adults. Captain America, Iron Man, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, The Flash, Daredevil, many others. You know, yeah. So, but we haven't really gotten like a superhero as a teenager. Okay, sure, maybe a couple like some of the X-Men members and Blue Beetle, but Spider-Man I think was probably the first ever teenage superhero that we ever got it. And of course, Spider-Man eventually became an adult and stuff like that, onward, so forth, so forth. But that was one of the reasons that made Spider-Man popular and very relatable. For many reasons, and why he's popular. He just seems to stick out amongst the majority of the Marvel characters. That's even back then, and still to this day. You know, anything Spider-Man related will definitely sell like crazy. The Spider-Man movies are just off the wall, amazing. Sure, all of them. Some of them have their faults, like Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But they still have some enjoyable moments. Even those spin-off films, some of them are okay. Like the Venom movies, I guess I can give a pass to. Even though The Last Dance was kind of a disappointment. And the others are just, we should just, we should not acknowledge them. More BS. More Morphin time. Morbius, do you want Power Rangers to sue you? Yeah, okay. But the point is, Spider-Man is just overall a very popular character, and that's why a lot of us love him. We all love him. I grew up with Spider-Man. I love the character. We all love the character. Kids do. He's just an overall very popular character. And I guess we can look at him as Marvel's official mascot. Like how Mario is to Nintendo, Sonic is to Sega, and SpongeBob is basically technically to Nickelodeon, the series' official mascot. Sure, it may not be stated that Spider-Man is the official mascot, but he might as well be because he's the most popular character out of every other Marvel character. I mean, the close second will probably be Iron Man or maybe the X-Men, but Spider-Man still has that #1 spot. So, anyways, now we're going to talk about the 1994 animated series and why I think that series is by far the best Marvel animated series out of all of them. Out of all the Marvel animated series that came out in the 90s. Okay, sure, it might not be the best Marvel animated series out there. Maybe Avengers Assemble. No, Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes. I think that probably might take the cake, maybe. But I'm probably going to give to Marvel the 1994 animated series. And one of the reasons why is because of a few factors. Because the series was just a lot of fun. The series pretty much almost introduced, almost Spider-Man's huge rogue gallery of villains. I mean, we got to see almost all his villains, and even some obscure ones like Morbius and I forgot that dude. That dude who was mutated. He had like these tentacle things out of his shoulders, and he had like a some kind of pale skin. I forgot his name. And it was like just one unique animated series at the time. You know, now yeah, sure, we didn't get all the villains. We didn't get Sandman because they couldn't use Sandman because of a licensing issue. Because Sandman was actually planned to be the main villain in that canceled James Cameron Spider-Man movie that I'm not sure if any of you guys remember, but James Cameron was supposed to make a Spider-Man movie, live action movie, and Sandman was going to be the main villain. And apparently, I think that was said to be the reason why Sandman wasn't in the 1994 animated series. It was a bummer because I think it would have been cool to see him. But in his place, we got Hydro Man, which is I thought was pretty cool. And now the Spot, he was actually in a couple episodes, or I think one episode. I did not know. To be honest, there were some 1994 animated episodes that I didn't get to see, didn't really see. So episodes featuring the Spot was probably one of them. But and one of the things that the series did was great was have almost have like a huge cast of Spider-Man characters, like some that we had in the later seasons. We got almost every Spider-Man character. Well, not everyone. We got Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Mary Jane, Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn, Aunt May, Uncle Ben. He appeared in a flashback. James Joba Jameson, Betty Brant, Hobie, that black guy who works for Jonah Jameson, and yeah, Betty Brant. I think she was in an episode. Yeah, Eddie Brock. Yeah, Venom. Cletus Cassidy, Carnage. Um, yeah, they kind of toned Cletus Cassidy down because they didn't made him too much of a crazy murderer because all they said was, oh, he did something that even I forgot what it was. They said that he did something that even the police wouldn't even want to think about, or something that normal girls wouldn't do. I don't know, something like that. But they toned him down. Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, and I actually thought she was really attracted in that series. Yeah, she had the muscles and stuff. Hey, who doesn't love a muscle woman? But yeah, and we have others, and many other characters. Yeah, Madam Web. It was cool to see her. Yeah, we almost had almost a full cast of Spider-Man's well-known characters, huge cast of supporting characters, and I think Flash Thompson was in a couple episodes. So yeah, we got to see a whole lot of bunch of Spider-Man characters. Now, sure, unfortunately, we didn't get to see Gwen Stacy. I guess they decided not to put her in because they felt like because since she died in the comics, it probably wouldn't be appropriate to have her in. But then again, they could have like easily just went written around that. Like they didn't have to show that because not all animated series that are based, cartoon series, TV shows that are based off of comic book superheroes, they don't always stay faithful to the comics sometimes, even the movies. So sometimes they often just do their own thing. So I think they could have written around that. And most of the episodes were pretty great. I enjoyed the majority of the episodes. Now, it's been a while since I've seen this series, but I do remember loving it a lot, and for many reasons. Now, another thing that I think was like one of the best things that the series did, that was like on the topping on the cake, like ice cream, like the topping on the cake. You know what I'm saying? Topping cake, something like I don't know what I'm saying right, but icing on the cake. Yeah, the icing on the cake was the cherry on top of the sundae of it all. The best scenes that it ever did was it added in special guest appearances from many different Marvel characters. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we got to see special guest appearances from many different Marvel characters. Yeah, Captain America, Iron Man, Blade, Punisher, Doctor Strange, Daredevil, and the Fantastic Four. You know, I think there were others, and the X Men. And obviously, of course, the X Men, the ones with the X, when the X Men made a special appearance, I guess that could be looked at as a crossover with the 1992 X Men animated series, mainly because, you know, those versions that we saw that made a guest appearance in the series were actually the versions from the 1992 X Men animated series. So you could probably look at that as like a little crossover instead of a special guest appearance. Well, it's still a guest appearance, but also you can look at it as a crossover because those were the same versions of the X Men from the 1992 animated series. So it shows that the two shows are actually in the same universe. And I guess this is also the same thing for Iron Man because I think it's possible that the '90s Iron Man animated series is also is this in the same universe as the 1994 Spider-Man series. So yeah, so the 1994 Spider-Man series was essentially the first ever MCU, if you think about it, the first ever Marvel Cinematic Universe, but in TV form. Like, sure, we would get the with the movies like years later down the line, you know. But you know, this was like the first official one. Now I don't know if the Fantastic Four, yeah, if this was the same versions of them from the '90s animated series. I don't think so. Yes, no. Now it was yeah, but it was kind of cool to see all these other Marvel characters make an appearance, guest appearance, because the majority of them were pretty much kind of like, unless you were a diehard Marvel fan, you probably want to know who these characters are. But I think this series did a good job adding those characters because like introducing those guys to like, you know, the casual fans, you know, the casual people who are not all that into Marvel, don't read comics, or not all that invested in comic books, but like Spider Man, and then that will introduce them to these characters. You know, I think this series did a good job introducing them into, you know, introducing them to the Punisher, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, Blade, and you know a couple others. Yeah, so it was kind of cool to see all these characters make a guest appearance. One thing that I think was a bummer was that we never got to see a special appearance, guest appearance from the Hulk. I do think the Hulk. I do think he was probably planned to appear, make a guest appearance in this series, but I think there was something to do with a licensing. I think there was a licensing issue because UPN owned the rights. Well, because you know the '90s Hulk animated series, you know that was airing on UPN. I think UPN they had the license to it, and they weren't really willing to share the license. So it does suck we never got to see the Hulk make a guest appearance. Now I think I heard a rumor that he was supposed to be in the Secret Wars storyline, but that never went through. But yeah, also yeah, you know the later season, like the season final season, I think adapted the Secret Wars story arc, which is very popular in the Marvel comics, and we're obviously going to get that in the MCU coming soon. You know, with Avengers Secret Wars coming out, I think next year in 2026. Yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, that was one of the greatest things that Spider-Man animated series did. Like, you know, and also we got to see the Beyonder. You know, and yeah, there must have been other Marvel guest appearances that I'm probably missing. But you know, those were pretty much like the cherry on top. You know, icing on the cake. Just to see all these specimens from all these characters. Now, now for some of you guys who probably don't know, but there was actually plans to do. I think there was plans to do a sixth season. No, there was plans to do a sixth season of the Spider-Man animated series, and and apparently there was going to be like an episode where Spider-Man teams up with Ghost Rider, and I think they were going to team up to fight against Mephisto or Dormammu. No, but Spider-Man did team up with Iron Man to fight Dormammu, and War Machine made a great and gets appearance in that episode too. So this great, just you know, it was just great to see these characters interact. Now, I think it would have been cool to see Galactus make a guest appearance, like maybe Spider-Man team with all the other Marvel heroes to take on Galactus. Imagine how sick that would have been. Yeah, it does kind of suck we never got that, you know, sixth season. I think it was supposed to be the sixth season. Yeah, where too bad we didn't get to see Spider-Man team with Ghost Rider. Now there are other Marvel characters I think would have been cool if they added in as well, aside from just the ones that we already got. It would have been cool to see Black Widow, or would have been cool to see Black Panther. It would have been cool to see who else? I guess maybe Shang-Chi. Yeah, we don't. I think the animated series did a good job in adding these Marvel characters as guest characters, and we'll be introduced to some of these characters down the line in the future, and they will get their own spin-off, movies eventually. Doctor Strange will eventually get his own movie back in 2020, 2016. Black Widow, first being in Iron Man 2, then being a part of the Avengers, and, get her own solo movie, even though that took forever. That should have happened, like, during, phase 2, I think. I think it would be cool to see a Hawkeye make an appearance in the animated series as well. It's a bummer, but, hey, things happen. But, I know, looking back at the Spider-Man animated series, it probably was a bit cheesy, but so were a lot of animated shows back in the day. They had cheesy moments, and they replaced guns with blasters, lasers. It's understandable because it was a kids show and they couldn't show guns and bullets on TV at the time. So practices, so they had to do something, to tone it down to make it, kid friendly. And yeah, it was a great series, and a lovable series, and one I think I'll go back to revisit. I do remember watching reruns on Jetix back in the mid 2000s. Yeah. And I'll try to see if I can get the complete series on DVD. Unfortunately, it did receive a complete series outside of, I think, in another country, but it's out of print right now, and I don't know if Disney is ever going to release a complete series of it. Apparently, I think it's on Disney Plus, so I might check it out there. So yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I think Spider-Man: The 1994 animated series is the best Marvel animated series of all time. Uh, Also, and I forgot Thor. It would have been cool to see Thor too. I forgot Thor as well. My bad. Well, but Ghost Rider, Thor, they did make a guest appearance. I mean, they made a guest appearance on the Fantastic Four, even the Incredible Hulk animated series. And Ghost Rider's guest appearance in the Hulk animated series was actually my first introduction to the character, actually. Yeah, I remember watching that episode way back in 2005. So, yeah. Spider-Man 1994 animated series, definitely a great series. Definitely check it out. A YouTuber by the name of Kaiji no Kame, well, he goes by the name Toku and Animation News Network, I think that's his name. He did a video, so go ahead and check it out. I'll leave a link to it in the description below, so you can check it out. You'll like it. He's a great YouTuber. I've watched his content for years now. Yeah, he does great stuff reading Toku stuff and all the above. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the Spider-Man 1994 anime series. Do you agree that you think it's the best Marvel anime series of all time, or you think there are better ones? Feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. And now today is Saturday as I'm recording this video. Tomorrow, Sunday, I'm gonna record some more videos and I'll have them uploaded on Monday. So be tuned in for that. And so yeah, I'll see you guys later. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And I'll keep you updated with more videos. This is Comrade64 signing out. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Later, folks.